What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lineman Life live stream. Whoa. Forgetting to turn stuff down over here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lineman Life live stream. It is June 1671, the day mama pushed me out of womb, told me nigga get paid. Tupac Shakur's birthday. Happy birthday, Tupac. For all you Pac fans out there, I'm a diehard Pac fan, so definitely want to send out RIP to the GOAT in hip-hop, in my opinion. But yeah, I've been pretty much posting about that all day on Twitter, so, you know, I'm pretty sure there's some people out there who are pretty annoyed, pretty tired of seeing me tweet nothing but Tupac stuff, but it is his birthday. So, happy birthday to Tupac. We miss you. RIP. And not only that, we have a couple of very interesting stories to get into today. But before we even get started into all that, make sure you smash that like button. And if this is your first time on the live stream, make sure you hit that subscribe button and think about joining the O-Line, as we are definitely starting to grow in our numbers, and I'm really enjoying seeing that. So thanks very much for those who are joining. But definitely smash that like button and make sure you get that bell notification tapped as well, so you can keep up whenever I get online, whenever I drop a new video. Generally keeps you in the loop of what's going on with the channel. Now, well, before we actually get started, got a little bit of an OT question here, off topic. Mikey Gusler for $5 super chat. He says, Uche, off topic, but have you seen the Green Lantern concept art? Do you have faith that the Snyderverse is going to be restored? Yes, I actually did see that concept art. I saw that yesterday. I think, was it yesterday? Yeah, I saw that yesterday. I mean, it pretty much the scene that we saw with Martian Manhunter was supposed to be the scene for Green Lantern. That's the gist that I was told by Zach himself. And I mean, obviously, I think that concept art kind of confirms that. It's the same scene, basically, just at night. It's that big green glow that, what's his name was talking about from Mallrats? Mike Smith, I think that's his name. So, yeah, definitely was pretty cool to see that concept art. I think that, again, you know, the Snyderverse is something that is it's something that the fans want. It's something that people are actually consistently pressing for. We'll see what Discovery does. Discovery is pretty much going to be calling shots here soon. Once their buyout or their merger with Warner Media is complete. I honestly, for the time being, I have just kind of chilled on, chilled on pushing because there's nothing that can be done right now. I mean, if you're a Snyderverse fan like myself, there's nothing that really can be done right now. And it is important to keep it out there, of course. And much love to everybody who's doing that. RTS is one of them. The Ayer Cut guys, those are other guys. You got Film Junkie. He's doing his thing, keeping it out there. And my bad, Film Junkie. I saw you sent me a link the other day, but I was out of town, man. I was in Vegas. Sorry, I wasn't able to jump in there in one of his vodka streams, but next time definitely will. A lot of guys in the community who are actually keeping it alive. So much respect to them. I'm gonna do my part, but I've been dealing with a lot of things on my channel, a lot of stories I've been working on. My channel's been seeing a big spike in growth as of late. Views have been going up significantly. So, I've had to kind of focus on that and keep myself consistent with trying to drop videos daily, which is not an easy thing, especially for somebody like myself. I am ADD, so it is hard for me to actually focus on one singular situation and one singular project and keep going. I haven't posted on my AthGeek channel in 2 weeks. because I've been trying to stay focused on this one thing, this one channel, my main channel, because there were so many big stories that were coming out in the sports world that I had to jump on, which kind of like, pushed me away from, my consistency that I was really having really well with at the Athgeek channel. So that channel actually, I have 100,000 view video on that channel, and that's a new channel. So make sure you go check out the Athgeek if you haven't already. Subscribe to it. That is my pop culture and, basically my pop culture reaction channel. So whether it's movies, video games, I didn't even get to cover E3. I was on a plane while all the E3 stuff was going on. So I didn't really get to cover E3 like I wanted to, but, I'm about to try and diverge my attention once again to try and handle both these channels at the same time. I was doing a good job of it, and I kind of just focused on my main channel, this one, Uche Nwaneri, because there were so many things that were kind of clicking right at the same time. So, but I will definitely, I'll definitely be doing some stories on the concept art from the Green Lantern tease from Zach, and any other major things that come up. I totally missed the story about the Harley Quinn situation for the animated show with their whole thing with Batman. So, it is what it is. I'll catch up with all that stuff as I can. But we are here today to talk about a couple of things that I found. There were some pretty noteworthy things to talk about. Obviously, one of them is going to be kind of a follow-up on the MLB coverage that I did last week when I was talking about Garrett Cole and his interview that he had in regards to the spider tax situation. Obviously, the MLB has come out and they've actually had an official crackdown on foreign substances, I guess, when it comes to baseballs. And we're hearing a lot of the big time pitchers and a lot of the star players in MLB actually kind of give their 2 cents. And one of the main guys giving his 2 cents has been Trevor Bauer from the Los Angeles Dodgers. So we're going to take a look at some stuff that he talked about coming up here in a little bit. But I wanted to start off with a story that I found to be very peculiar. I didn't really understand where this story kind of came from, mainly because this is just not what you expect when it comes to dealing with, sports memorabilia and family members who are obviously related to the athlete himself. But as it's kind of hit the headlines today, Vince Wilfork, who was a long-time NFL defensive tackle. I played against him a couple of times. Vince Wilfork, multiple Super Bowl championships with the New England Patriots. His son has been arrested for stealing his Super Bowl rings and selling them. If you're going to steal your Pop Super Bowl rings to sell them, you've got to be in a pretty desperate spot. But why would you be in a desperate spot when your Pops is a Super Bowl champ? I think, obviously, there's probably things going on below the surface that are going to kind of reveal some information in regards to what Vince Wilfork's son is actually going through. But let's take a look at the article. And this is coming from Bleacher Report. And, I was perplexed when I saw this. I actually saw this story originally through a couple of my former teammates from Jacksonville. We got a group text where we just kind of chop it up and talk about random stuff. And this link came flying in that was talking about the whole situation with Vince Wilfork. So let's go through this article. It's not very long, but I do want to talk about it because I think that there is definitely it's bizarre. It's bizarre, but there's a little bit of irony to it. Let's check it out. It says Vince Wilfork's son arrested, allegedly stole father's Patriots Super Bowl rings. And that's Vince Wilfork. For those of you who do not necessarily know who he is, he was a defensive tackle, played the majority of his years in New England. I played against the guy. He's a good player. He's a nose tackle, the truest form of nose tackle that you would see in the NFL. Pure, over the center in a 3-4 nose. He's a 0 nose, as we would call him in football. And he did a good job and did his job well in New England, and he played in a number of other places. I think he played with the Jets as well. Or no, not the Jets, the Texans. The Texans. So let's get into the article. It says DeAndre Holmes Wilfork, who is the son of former New England Patriots and Houston Texans defensive tackle Vince Wilfork, was arrested in May and charged with theft of property greater than $300,000. Damn. How much are those rings worth? Those rings, I mean, he got 2 Super Bowl rings. 2 Super Bowl rings. He must have gotten some other stuff, but if you're saying 2 Super Bowl rings are over $300,000 in value, I mean, that's. But like, why? There has to. I would like to know what the relationship is between Vince Wilfork and DeAndre Holmes Wilfork, because I look at the name and he's got the hyphenated Wilfork on there. So this may be. Is this a son, a true son, or is this a stepson? That's something that I think has to be looked into as well, because this is not typical of what I would expect, at least from my assumptions on how I would handle something like this if I was a dad and my kid stole my Super Bowl rings and sold them. I mean, I would kind of be like, yeah, I'm gonna handle your ass, but I'm not about to necessarily let you go to jail over it. Or I'm going to try my best to keep you from going to jail. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. We don't know. But it says here, John Wayne Ferguson of the Galveston Daily News reported 2 Super Bowl rings the elder Wilfork won with the Patriots were included in items the 5-time Pro Bowler's son stole. Holmes Wilfork's bond was set at $300,000 after he was arrested by the Friendswood Police Department on May 22nd, although Ferguson noted he is no longer listed in custody at the jail. Well, I mean, shit, they paid that 10%, that $30,000. Damn. Wilfork noticed he was missing the jewelry in May 2020, but did not immediately report the items as stolen because he thought they may be in storage. However, a Patriots fan sent him a message when someone posted online about acquiring the rings. The person who said, what the hell is this? The person who said he had the rings told Wilfork he purchased them from Holmes Wilfork for $62,000. I mean, that's a chunk, but you had rings that was worth, and whatever other materials, he had rings that were worth over $300,000. So, I mean, he took a fucking L. He took an L to the fullest on this one. Says he also reported, okay. The rings were turned into police after Wilfork reported them stolen. He also reported he was missing 2 AFC championship rings, a college football championship ring. He won with the Miami Hurricanes, necklaces. Okay, there you go. Boom. That fills in all the valuables in terms of the monetary value. It says here, necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. So this cat basically stole his jewelry, all his shit. I mean, come on. Damn. I got to find a picture of this cat. I got to find out I'm sure that I can find that. It says Wilfork played for the Patriots from 2004 to 2014 and made all 5 of his Pro Bowls and won 2 championships during his time with the AFC East team. He played final 2 seasons of his career on the Texans in 2015 and 2016. Why do I keep thinking that Vince Wilfork played for the New York Jets? Am I off in that? Or was that another big defensive nose tackle? I can't remember. Anyways, this is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, this is wild mainly because it's his son. But I honestly feel like I need to find out what this kid, like, what is his actual relation? Give me a second here. What is his actual, like, is he his, like, biological son? Can be. Like, biological son would never do that, right? I mean, unless he was addicted to crack or something. Holy crap. Okay, we got an article here from the Galveston. Huh. Okay, let's check this article here out. This is from the Galveston News. So this is in Houston, Galveston is in Houston, Texas, or that's in the Houston area. Huh. Let's see here. All right, so, police are sold after being stolen. Include Super Bowl ring. 23. Yeah, I think that. Fuck that. So this article, I mean, I just breezed through it quietly here, and it's pretty much the same thing. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, like, I mean, this is the kid right here, right? So this is DeAndre Holmes Wilfork. I don't know. I mean, does this guy, does there seem to be a, let me see. They look alike, right? I mean, obviously Wilfork's a big motherfucker, but I'm looking at the eyes. I'm looking at the brows. I don't know. I don't know that this is his biological son, and that may have something to do with it. Let's see what else we got here. I think this is all just basic, like, rehash reporting here. So everything is just a rehash of what has already been reported. But again, I find this to just be really a bizarre story, because if it's your son, if this is like his son's son, and your kid steals all of your jewelry, there's got to be some problems there between them on a personal level. There must be a rift between them. Or, you know, maybe the kid has a substance abuse problem that he's hadn't been able to get under control. Or maybe he owes a lot of money to some motherfuckers and he had to get that paid. But he did sell off his rings for $62,000. And, I mean, that's kind of weird, because how do you expect that that's going to go if you steal your Super Bowl rings? If you steal those are items that literally are custom made for the player. His name's engraved on the inside, sized for his finger. Like, I would think that the guy who bought these from him would have checked the rings themselves immediately and seen that this was Vince Wilfork's rings. Okay, so who are you trying to sell these rings? Oh, you're his son. Okay, I guess he did. I guess he kind of did that. But you want to kind of verify, why are you bringing these things to me to try and sell them to me? If you're a jeweler, obviously. And these guys reported this to Vince Wilfork, who then reported his item stolen, because, you know, and I feel where he's coming from in that he didn't report it stolen immediately, because I've done the same kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of people have done that kind of thing where you didn't necessarily know where you put something that was valuable to you. But you kind of assume that it will pop up, that, you know, you left it in a certain spot and you just kind of, it's fallen out of, you know, obvious sight. So now you just wait for it to pop back up. I'm pretty sure that's where he was in his mind. They'll pop up. But then when you get reached out to by a jeweler who says, yo, bro, got your rings. I got your rings over here. That's got to be just a shocking thing, because you wouldn't expect your kid to do that. Now, again, just because it's his son doesn't mean that there's not, you know, big problems there, or there's not a disconnect there where there may be some animosity, there may be some tension. But it would take a lot, I would think, for your kid to want to, like, take your jewelry, all your jewelry, unless you've disowned him, which I think that is probably a more likely scenario than not, that maybe he disowned this cat and was like, look, you're not getting no more support from me financially. You know, we're not, you know, you might as well, you know, lose our number, whatever it may be. Could be a possibility. I'm speculating, so don't take any of this, you know, beyond a grain of salt. But definitely, there had to be a true, like, palpable level of animosity built up there between these two guys to where, you think that snatching all his stuff is the move to make. And now his kid's probably looking at some serious jail time. I wonder if there's a situation where maybe Vince Wilfork can elect to drop charges. But once you get up to $300,000 in terms of the monetary value of what you've stolen, them feds taking over on that one. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to DeAndre Holmes Wilfork in the future. But doesn't look good. He had $300,000 bond, which is that's a pretty hefty bond. And I think you pay 10% of that? Pay 10% of that, you're paying $30,000. So, he might just be hey, whatever happens for this kid, but can't do that. Can't steal them. Can't snatch up mementos like that and think that it's going to go unnoticed. Those are some of the most recognizable, pieces of jewelry that you can actually find. Championship rings, Miami Hurricanes championship ring, New England Patriots championship rings. Then his just basic jewelry. You're not going to get that by too many people. So good on the jeweler who actually reported this to Vince Wilfork. I think that's huge. And I think, obviously there may be some kind of cash in it for him at the end of the day, because now he's giving that stuff back after he's already paid $62,000. He can't keep that stuff. So he's out of that much money. He's probably going to get it covered by Wilfork. Or if he doesn't, he'll probably sue to get it covered. So we'll see how that plays out. But moving on, there is another major situation happening in the world of sports. And we see Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer has been, since yesterday, on a little bit of a tear with the MLB. Obviously, the situation with pitchers and baseballs has become a big issue, big topic of discussion in the major leagues. But he has come out and he's actually put some statements out there to kind of voice his opinion, voice his frustrations with Major League Baseball. I did a video last week that actually dropped yesterday, but I did a video last week on the live stream that I clipped, and we talked about this whole situation with, I guess, the ethics of what is going on with the MLB, the ethics of baseball pitchers altering their balls. Every time I say that, I kind of look at myself altering your balls. But the MLB's cracked down on this. The MLB has cracked down on it. They are, I think they said they're doing 10-day suspension for guys who are caught. And, they're actually not allowed, there's going to be an active, proactive attempt to stop players or stop pitchers from using altered concoctions to alter their baseballs in games. And look, I think we all know what the benefits are of them having, as strong a grip as possible on the baseball. I think one of the things that I've been hearing, and talking with guys about this whole situation, because I'm not a baseball expert, but I do understand. I understand it. I understand what, how these things are being used, the advantage of using them. I understand the disadvantages, and I understand the same things on the other side with batting. I mean, you don't see guys going with corked bats, but a corked bat gives you about as much advantage as, spider tack and sunscreen and rosin. These are things that give a pitcher the ability to control their pitch much better, get a lot more RPM on their pitch, get a lot more control in the varying pitches that create movement with the ball. These are things that are big. So Trevor Bauer comes out on and puts out a post where he says, and really this was in response to the MLB's actual statement coming out and disavowing any kind of foreign substances on the ball, something that they've known has been going on for years. They know that it's part of the culture of baseball right now. And, when you're trying to, change the culture of a sport, that is something that's going to be met with a lot of resistance. It's going to take a long time for them to really truly create a change in that. And I don't think they will. I don't necessarily think that there is a reason to, because they've allowed this monster to be created. They have turned a blind eye to it for years. So now it's like, too late. You can't really come out and start, putting the hammer down on players. And they started in the minor leagues. But you can't really come out and start smashing on players and trying to, to have a total sea change in how players who alter and doctor their balls are handled. You can't do that. It's too late for that. You have to adjust to it now. But Trevor Bauer had this to say. He said, so save it with the competitive integrity bullshit MLB. All you care about is the bottom line of the business and the public perception negatively affecting it. And that's him reacting to the MLB's crackdown on foreign substance use. And he had more to say beyond just that. He says, and I think really this is the beginning of what he's trying to say. He says, only one of the massive problems with what the MLB is doing, they've knowingly swept this under the rug for 4 years. Now they implement a knee-jerk reaction to shifting public perception. Hard to hear them talk about competitive integrity when they have no integrity to begin with. To be clear, the memo is fine long-term, and it will serve to level the playing field. That is a good thing. But to implement it mid-season, when for 3 months you've promised players and teams that nothing about your chosen enforcement of the rules would change this year, and actively encourage players to continue playing how they have in the past, that's a lie. There's no integrity in that. And this is where the major part of the quote that was put in with the pitcher says, so save it with the competitive integrity bullshit MLB. All you care about is bottom line of the business and public perception negatively affecting it. And I would say, yeah, that's right. That's what a business is going to do. They are going to focus on the things that affect their bottom line and their public perception. That is like literally how the business plan works. Like that's the only way for it to work. So yes, is he right though? Is he right? Is Trevor Bauer right? I think he is right. I think you can't just change the rules in the middle of the season. That's not how the shit works. You see this a lot in the NFL whenever there's a situation in regards to, and this is more directly in regards to play on the field, but when the NFL sees that there's a problem in just procedure, there's a problem in protocol, they will wait until the next year and they'll vote on it. They'll actually kind of set it up and put an agenda together to figure out what's the best way to move forward. Do we change a rule? Do we add a instant replay for holding calls? Do we add instant replay for pass interference? These are things that the NFL discussed every year in the offseason. Do we fine players for wearing their socks, with too much solid color? That was a thing once upon a time, because guys were going from half and half colors to now just the main color with barely a slither of white showing. And now in the NFL, shit, they don't even wear the white socks, half of the cats on teams. They don't even wear them. That was a finable thing when I first got into the NFL. By the time I got into my last few years, that was something that guys that the NFL just did not pay attention to as much anymore. So you could wear your socks however you wanted. You could wear shirts and let your shirts hang out from your jersey. They allowed they relaxed the dress code, and they relaxed it for like the last 6-7 years. So if the NFL decided to then tighten up the dress code and then start finding guys who didn't have their jerseys tucked in, because it used to be you had to have your jersey tucked in. That's how it was when I first came into the NFL. After a couple years, they relaxed on that, and then they started relaxing on everything else. But the MLB right now is trying to make a reaction, is reacting to a scandal that's been put out into the public sphere in a time where it's seen a little bit differently than it was when, this first came out, which was about 4 years ago. I remember with CC Sabathia, that was something that he got kicked out of a game for. That he had something on his baseball, and it was like half his baseball was like dark brown. It looked like, he had just put some damn wood finish on there or something. It was something that was talked about. It was a big issue of the week, but then it kind of died down, went away. And Trevor Bauer here is actually, kind of speaking out to that the MLB has allowed this to go on and done nothing about it. So why are they trying to now go against what they've already told the players they wouldn't do? They told the players that they wouldn't make a midseason change for them to continue playing how they have in the past, and then they went back on that. So they were being hypocrites. They were lying. And, of course, when this happens, a guy like this can call that out. A guy like this can say, this is bullshit. They can say that. He has the clout to say that. But let's take a look also at this video here, which is making the rounds on the internet as well. This video is a actual live interview with Trevor Bauer. Let's take a listen. And then, this is about a 9-minute video, but I'm going to try and move through it quickly. And maybe we're probably not going to watch the whole thing. But he does go into some detail into his perspective as it pertains to this whole issue with the foreign substances. So let's take a listen. Okay.
Well, Trevor, I'm just going to get right to it. There's no more here, and I just want to say, MLB obviously came out with a statement today, and I was just about the sticky stuff about pitchers using, and I was just wondering what your reaction is to that.
Legal or illegal? Well, that looks illegal, but I guess that's not.
It looks very illegal, right? It's a combination of sweat and rosin, so I don't know if they can't outlaw sweat and they give me rosin, so am I going to get suspended for that? I don't know. And I think that's one of the biggest issues right now is that they haven't thought through a lot of these things. They just made the umpires judge, jury, and executioner. So if an umpire thinks that your hand is sticky, even if you have nothing on your hand, and he decides to throw you out because he doesn't like you, doesn't like the team, whatever, maybe you're arguing balls and strikes earlier, there's no appeals process. I can't go argue that my hand wasn't sticky an hour ago or whatever. And you haven't, the best analogy for this is you have basically people who have never seen traffic before have now been given no radar guns and have been told, hey, you're supposed to tell who's speeding and who's not, and then give them tickets, and there's no appeal process. So I'm supposed to look and say, oh, that is sticky, or that isn't sticky, or that guy's going 20 miles an hour, or that guy's going 120 miles an hour. Umpires haven't been trained to know what is sticky and what isn't. And, like, if I can hold a ball like this, that's obviously illegal, right? But it's not because it's sweat and rosin. So it's a mess. Typical MLB fashion. They didn't get a whole lot about this right. However, I will say it is nice that 4 years later, they are trying to do something about the integrity of the game, because I've been talking to them about this issue for 4 years, and they've done absolutely nothing. So it's nice that they tried, but wrong time to do it in the middle of a season that needs to be done in the off season.
I think he's spot on. I mean, I can't disagree with anything that he's saying. And in the last week when I talked about this, I think from the technical standpoint, even though it wasn't necessarily, I guess it wasn't written as a rule, from a technical standpoint, they have an advantage over the batter to a certain extent. They can control their pitches in a way that they maybe couldn't control it without something on the ball. whether you consider it cheating or not, it is an advantage over the batter. The batter doesn't have anything to counter that. Now, I do understand that there are there are people who will say, well, this keeps them from, hitting the batter. This lowers the chance of wild pitches and balls hitting the batter. But to that, I respond with, you're a professional pitcher. You should be able to make the adjustment to keep your pitches from hitting the batter. You should be able to make the adjustment to have pitches that are accounted for in a way that compensates for your lack of, I guess, quote unquote, grip. I mean, if they allow them to use rosin, which I think they do allow the pitchers to use rosin, and sweat, and the ball stuck to his hand the way it did, why would you need anything more? Why would you need, because, it looked like he had a good grip there. Now, again, I'm not a pitcher. I can't tell you what the difference is. I can't tell you how it feels any different for him to hold the baseball with something like spider tack versus something with something like rosin and sweat, which is what he just showed us here. But he is 100% correct in his grievance with the MLB that they are literally creating an issue that there shouldn't really be, because if they really do want to make a change, they need to wait till the end of the season. Do it in the off season so there can be due diligence put into it so that you can actually study whether or not there is a substantial measurable effect. I think we all know that the way that the ball spins is greatly affected with when you don't have a component that allows for better grip. I think that it's safe to say that given an off season to actually analyze the entire situation, and rather than try to stomp it out of the game, I always came to the suggestion of they should adapt their game to use it as a tool. It's something you can create a new industry and market within your sport for. You can have a official third-party company that actually provides a certain grip, certain product that gives you a better grip on the ball officially. Something that they support, something that has had the science behind it to kind of make sure that, it is giving them a better grip, but it doesn't it's not a something that would be considered cheating. They can give this a lane in the game if they want to. I think Trevor Bauer, in saying that he's been talking about this for years to the MLB, I think that's disingenuous to a certain extent, because he uses things on his baseball. So you can complain about it on one hand, but you're doing it and you're willing, you're doing what you got to do to keep up with your competition. You're doing it yourself. So, I think that the middle ground in this is to create a product that can be used and sanctioned by MLBs, that all pitchers can use to get a better grip on the ball. But for me, I look at it and I say, that's all fine and dandy, but now where is the batter's advantage that levels the playing field for everybody? Because I would argue that you are a much better pitcher if you have better control and can be more precise with your pitches. Nobody I think, is going to argue against that. But where does it go for the batter? Those balls are harder to hit home runs off of. It's harder to hit a home run off of a pitch that is if you had to put it on a scale from 0 to 100 in terms of overall effectiveness of pitch, these are pitches that normally should probably be around a 60 to 70% efficiency I guess depending on the pitch, it would be anywhere between 0 to 100 in efficiency. But some of these harder pitches that get a lot more movement, those are pitches that aren't very high, that aren't super efficient unless you can get a very good grip on the ball and you can put a great spin on the ball. The high fastball is one that I read about that is now like the money ball. That's a money ball that is harder, that is so much harder for batters to hit as compared to, the straight down the pipe fastball, because the grip that these pitchers are able to throw these balls with and the RPM that they can get on the ball and its spin, the only way you can knock that ball is straight up in the air. You cannot get that. You can't knock that pitch out of out of the park. You can't even get a base hit off of that generally. But I think that this is a situation that the Major League Baseball has completely fucked. They've fumbled it and fucked it up because they should have waited until the offseason to really give any official response to this. It was nothing they can do about it at this point in the season. They should have just waited till the end of the season, and then once they have their league, I guess, media meetings or whatever, that the owner, it's kind of like the owners' meetings, I would guess. They probably have committees that get together once a year somewhere in Florida on a beach, on a resort. They get together and they talk about rules. That's when you can address something like this. You have players come in, maybe you guys talk and mediate about it, and you create a product that allows you to make more money for your bottom line, but also at the same time, it allows your pitchers are going to be happy, and you can actually set a rule and have have protections in place that say, this is the product you can use. These are the companies that make the products. These are the only products you can use. If you use anything else, it will be noticeable because all of these products look the same except for this. So if you're using something different, we'll know, and you'll be fined and suspended if you're caught. But you will have an actual outlet for the players to use to actually, keep them happy, so that they still have the ability to gain in their pitch, in their gripping of a baseball for a pitch. But what do you guys think in the chat? I'm looking over here. Let me see. Let me see. It says, is this how many players have corked bats? My question is, how many players have corked bats in the league? And that's a good question. That's a good question. Pine tar is cheating, period. People rather see home runs. Yeah, no. These are all things that I think are actually legitimate questions that you got to ask. Because, if it hasn't been in the rule book and it's just been a part of the culture for the longest, then what do the batters get? The batters have to get something. I think corked bats are something you might have to think about letting into the game. Again, you were for a sport that, that really a lot of the excitement in baseball comes from the home run. The home run is like the ultimate play, for baseball, I would think, at least from when we're talking about offense. Corked bats allow for better hits, allow for further hits. And I think that's a good counterbalance to doctored baseballs, which allow for less hits, less efficient hits, less home runs. Those things become harder to do when you don't have those kind of advantages to use to do it. But let's keep going here. Let's see what else he talks about here as far as this foreign substance issue.
Hey, Trevor, what's going on? This is Jerry. My question to you is, you talk about Major League Baseball. Where's the Players Association? Usually, when they make a decision like this, doesn't Major League Baseball at least have to ask the Players Association, or at least kind of get involved before they make a unilateral decision?
Well, that's the trick here. This is actually a rule that's collectively bargained upon and agreed upon. It's written in the rule book in the CBA. So MLB has just not enforced it for the entire history of baseball. So now they've decided.
So it's actually been a rule. It was already a rule. So they just weren't enforcing it. I would need to see that where it says in the CBA for Major League Baseball, where it speaks about that specifically. I need to see that because he's saying that it's been a rule, but I've seen scenarios in football where the rule was actually slightly different and was being actually specific in saying that, you couldn't use this on your gloves. You can't put this on your jersey. For O-linemen, it was that you cannot use any kind of oil. You can't put any kind of oil on your pads, because if you put oil on your pads over your jersey, it made it impossible for defensive linemen to get a hand on you. It makes it hard for linemen to get a hand on you. Makes it hard for anybody to be able to press out on you and lock out on you on the line of scrimmage because they can't grab your jersey. But sometimes these are very specific rules that only really talk about one substance and don't talk about the greater suite of substances that can actually affect the ball. So I'd like to see that.
To enforce the rule that's on the books, they don't have to consult the PA because it's already been agreed upon. It's a rule. But of course, we all understand that if there's a rule written and MLB chooses not to enforce it for hundreds of years, can we really consider that a rule? I don't think so. Especially when MLB was telling players and teams for 3 or 4 months already this year, do not change anything. We're not going to enforce it this year. Continue to act as normal. Do what you do, and we'll figure it out in the offseason. That's what's been consistently preached to all players and teams. And now all of a sudden it's like, everything is changing. And next Monday. So you have 7 days. Good luck.
I don't know why he's surprised. That's what fucking sports leagues do. Sometimes they just make shit up and they make you change what you're doing immediately. But again, in a situation like this where you're actually you're dealing with a bigger situation that is, being kind of played out in the court of public opinion, I think that Major League Baseball, that the best move to make is to not make a move until the offseason. I think the fact that they came out and they made this move, it really does. It really puts them in a bad space with the players because look, there's no, if it's a rule that's been in place since the beginning, which, if that's what Trevor Bauer is saying, if that's the case, then there's no one to blame in the situation but themselves. And they should not even be worried about it at this point. It shouldn't even be looked at in any way, but they wrote it down on paper. So, now it's, why are you not enforcing it? Well, it's something that they've allowed to go on because of, I guess, culture and tradition. And now here we are. I think that both sides have legitimate arguments to make here. But I think when you look at the consistency of sports leagues and how they handle these kinds of things with rules, you wait until the offseason to handle those things because it can be done in a non-reactionary manner. This is all reactionary right now, which makes it very slippery slope because there can be a number of different things that now begin to start coming out of the bag that have been unwritten rules that have been kind of played with throughout the history of Major League Baseball, and that could start a kind of a snowball effect. And I mean, I'm not saying that is going to happen, but there's definitely a possibility of something else coming up. And what is the rule going to be? What are they actually going to enforce once they do decide that they're going to go full go with this? I mean, going that way in the middle of the season, that just creates a lot of unnecessary drama and distractions. And, guys standing here doing interviews for 20 minutes after or before a game. It's really a problem that they created for themselves, and they're not handling it very well. And I mean, like I said, I can't disagree, but I can provide, at least a little bit of devil's advocate in some sense. But I really do agree with what Trevor Bauer is saying. They fucking this up.
Yeah, good luck with that. And Trevor, another fellow Hart High School product, Tyler Glasnow, he's been very outspoken as well. He had a partially torn UCL now, and he's convinced that it is because he stopped using the sunscreen and rosin that he was using before. He tried something different, and he said he was having to grip his fastball and his curveball different, and he thinks that is why he has now suffered possibly a season-ending injury. Are you concerned about other injuries around baseball now because of this?
Absolutely, I am. There's a couple of issues, and again, things that MLB hasn't thought about because a lot of the people making these rules never played, but that's 100% a thing. There's guys that sweat a lot, and their hands are wet.
Okay, so I got a question about this. Maybe somebody can answer this in the chat if you know. Was there ever a period, whether it be in high school, whether it be in college, whether it be in, minors or in Major League Baseball. Was there ever a time when this wasn't a thing? When actually having like something on the baseball wasn't a thing? Because I would venture to assume that if you are suffering from a season-ending injury because you weren't throwing with rosin and sunscreen on your baseball, well then that means that there are muscles, there are stability issues in that elbow that once that grip is taken away, the stability in your elbow or in your shoulder or wherever it may be, in your wrist, the stability is not there, which means you don't have the muscle memory and the muscle strength built up to be able to throw like that to begin with. So where was the point when you actually built up your strength in that arm, your muscle memory in that arm to be able to make those throws to begin with? Because it's just like if you've never actually been in an athletic position that would kind of dictate that you use muscles that you don't normally use, then when you put stress on those muscles and on those joints, they will fail. They will fail. So where is it in this guy's career that he ever genuinely just threw a baseball? Because now, repeating the same with the repetition of the same pitch with minus the sunscreen and rosin, you literally blow your arm out. Does that make sense? Am I making sense here? I don't understand, where is your actual pitching skill at then? Because if you can't throw a ball without injuring yourself, without having sunscreen and rosin on the ball, then it means you could never pitch that well. You could never make that pitch to begin with. Because your muscles aren't even used to doing that. Your muscles aren't used to actually going through that motion without having that much tension in your muscles. So I'm really interested to know whether or not, because that is how injuries happen. That is how injuries actually happen. If you don't have stability in the smaller muscles, it doesn't matter how strong the big muscles are, they will fail. And the stability is gained from the smaller muscles. So once those small muscles fail, then the ligaments and the tendons collapse behind it. So where is the actual pitching talent and pitching stamina to be able to make these throws undoctored? That to me is huge. That's huge. If you can't make the pitches undoctored to begin with, then you're not that good of a pitcher.
I don't know how those people are supposed to get a grip on the ball when the balls are so slick. And so, yeah, of course you're going to have to grip the ball harder. That activates all the muscles in your forearm in a way that hasn't been done before and isn't healthy.
Boom. Boom. He just literally just put it out there. So the problem is, in my opinion, not that you can't throw without the resin or rosin and the sunscreen. It's that your body cannot throw unless the ball is doctored. And that comes down to a grip thing, right? So it's not that you can't throw without it. You can't make those pitches at all. You can't make those pitches at all. So, and I think I might have just said the same thing twice. But I think where I'm trying to go with that particular thought is, if a guy has never been able to make a pitch without an assist from, his grip, then wouldn't that mean that he's already kind of at a disadvantage? The muscles don't hold up as well. The joints don't hold up as well. But if you had practiced and worked at those pitches without the grip and learned how to actually execute the pitch with a lesser level of grip, maybe, and again, I don't know. I'm not a pitcher. I don't claim to know the dynamics of pitching, but speaking on a very simple and fun and base level understanding, I always feel like for a quarterback with a football it's not about how hard you grip the football. It's about your ability to smoothly make the throwing motion. And the ball comes out because of the throwing motion, because of the torque that you build up in your body as you go from your hips to throw the ball. So your arm actually does the least amount of work as compared to the rest of your body to throw the ball. So wouldn't that be the same with a pitcher? That their arm actually should do less of the work, because the velocity that you're going to build in the pitch comes from your hips, comes from your rotation of your body. And yes, you grip the baseball, but you don't have to like have a ironclad grip on it to be able to produce the same kind of pitch. I don't know. Somebody explain that to me. I would like to know in the chat if you understand that, if you understand what I'm kind of asking here, which is, basically my question is this: if you can't throw your roster of pitches without rosin and sunscreen, then that just means that means that your mechanics are just not, your mechanics aren't sound, and your arm is actually not strong enough, period, unless you have a super grip on the ball. But even in that, you're putting more energy into the pitch. Let's see. Somebody used Vaseline, that and pine tar. Basketball, football. Let's see. Uses Vaseline for his knuckleball for more down rolled action. Same pine tar hurts the managers too because they don't have an accurate view on how good the player is. No, I think you guys, I mean, I'm looking at some of the conversation in here about it, and I think y'all kind of see where I'm going with this. Like, guys who are using doctored balls to pitch, I think it's kind of safe to say that they're not very good pitchers. I think it's safe to say that they are boosting their stats. They're boosting the perception of how good they are, because again, as it comes down to at the end of the day, there's a basic advantage that they have, and that they get a much stronger, much more consistent grip on the baseball. Now, Trevor Bauer is complaining about the baseball being slick, but it doesn't really make sense to me that you would be feeling like you've never made a pitch before if you had to pitch without that grip on it. To me, that's actually a key point that he kind of self-reported himself with here, because he's basically saying, if I don't have something on the ball, I can't pitch.
Like in the sequence of events, your forearm needs to be loose until such a time when it starts to accelerate, and then everything can co-contract and protect the elbow. But if you're gripping the ball initially and going through it, going through your delivery, different than you normally do, of course there's going to be an adjustment period necessary, and of course there can be injuries. The other thing that people haven't thought about is back to this issue: sweat and rosin. If that's illegal and I get suspended, my team has to play down a roster spot. They lose a pitcher. If a couple pitchers get suspended, they lose a couple pitchers. Now the bullpen guys have to carry more innings, so they're going to be overworked. And then those guys may be at risk for injury, even if.
Yeah, but these are all things that are. I mean, these are things we already know. I mean, that's not anything, And I'm sure that there will be a slight grace period here where they will warn guys ahead of time. Look, you can't pitch like that. Take that shit off the ball. Next time I got to tell you, you know what time it is. I mean, I would assume that's how it's going to go, because they are just whipping this out of left field. So guys are going to need a minute to kind of get in line with it, which may take a few games. I don't know if anybody's been suspended, but yeah, they're going to penalize you a roster spot just to quicken the transition so guys ain't dragging their feet. That's just that kind of thing happens.
They've done nothing wrong, just one of their teammates has. So again, it's just it's not the right time to do this at all. But again, to be clear, like I am in favor of leveling the playing field, and I've been saying that and screaming it for 4 years. And
so he admitted there that it's an unfair playing field for pitchers in their favor. Just taking that as a note.
Nice to see that they're finally doing something, but typical MLB, they just messed the whole thing up.
You have said about leveling the playing field, and I commend you so much for that. Would you like to see more than just rosin and sweat? Would you like to maybe see that pitchers maybe allow 2 or 3 substances that maybe everybody agrees upon and say, okay, it really doesn't affect the ball as much as some of the stuff that they're using now that is really off the charts?
No, look, the only way to do this is you have to make the ball somewhat sticky, and then you have to ban everything. Except for rosin or whatever. So the way I'd like to see it done is to create a machine. Right now, for those who don't know, the balls are rubbed with mud. So before the game, you get a brand new ball. Someone takes some mud out of a canister and rubs it up, and that's supposed to make the ball grippable. But unfortunately, when the ball gets dried out, it gets really slick and powdery because the mud doesn't stay wet forever, obviously. So what I'd like to see is when the balls come out of the box, there's a little conveyor belt. So you dump the balls in one side, they run down a conveyor belt into a little house, and it's sprayed from all sides with a certain approved substance, whether it's firm grip or whatever else. Like, let's agree upon that substance. The ball comes out the other end and gets dumped into the ball bucket, and it's good to go for 20 or 30 minutes. You don't have to spray enough on it where the leather gets soft or anything like that, and you just do it every single inning.
And I think he's explaining kind of what I was talking about. I think there needs to be a uniformed way to, I guess, if the MLB is going to look at this situation and say, hey, we, understand that pitchers need a little bit more grip on the ball and the balls are slick, we're going to come up with a process that allows for a level of some kind of sticky, tattering, a spray over the ball. It's just one layer of spray that gives, a 30 or 40-minute window of pitching with a sticky, residue on the ball for the pitchers to be able to grip. If they can agree to that, that's fine. It doesn't, it gives the pitcher the ability to grip without giving him, without allowing him to actually have a huge advantage. That's a hard thing to measure because at the end of the day, if the ball is not made to be gripped in that way and that with that kind of strength, because it is slick, then you changing that means you should just change how the baseballs are made, period, so that they already come out with a level of gripness, with a level of I guess, kind of tact and grip to it that allows for the ball to be thrown with a strong grip. That has to be a fundamental change, or it doesn't. Or you're just giving them a process to have the advantage, which, again, it is what it is at this point. You created the monster. There's not much more you can do about that. Patrick Guerra for Canadian $5. He says, you the man, Uche. Thank you, man. You the man, too, Patrick. Thanks very much for the super chat. Let's see. Says here. Tyler Boshier says, Garrett Cole pitched for Pittsburgh and sucked, gets traded to Houston and becomes 2-starter behind Justin Verlander, all because he used Spider Tack and he has a better spin rate than he ever had in his career. And yes, I did it. That was in my video that I dropped last night. That actually, there was a graph that actually documented his spin rate, his Garrett Cole in specific, his RPMs on his pitches at the height of his RPMs. He was at, I think, 2,800 rotations per minute. And after, as he started to have to come off of those, off of Spider Tack, and his balls were less or not doctored at all, this dude's RPM cratered. He gave up 5 hits in 5 innings. His RPM went down to like 2,100 RPM from 2,800 RPM. Damn near 1,000 RPMs in total from the graph that they had. So it was clear that there was a significant difference to his game, a significant difference, and I think that's where the integrity part does kind of come into this, at least as an athlete, because it's like this dude ain't shit without the help of a doctored baseball. He's not an elite pitcher. He's not the pitcher that he appears to be when you put it to the test. But there are pitchers out there in the MLB, I'm sure, who are elite pitchers and don't use anything on their baseballs, or maybe just use mud, like Trevor Bauer said here. I don't know. I don't know what pitchers don't use anything. I mean, maybe you guys do, but I don't. But I would assume that the best pitcher in Major League Baseball likely doesn't use very much of anything to doctor his baseball. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I would think that your true value as a pitcher will come to the forefront when you're not using anything on your baseball. Can you truly pitch? I think that's something that we'll find out soon enough here in Major League Baseball. A lot of the guys who were complaining about it, a lot of the guys who were complaining about having to come off of using any kind of concoction on the baseball, a lot of guys who do that, they're generally the ones who are going to suffer the most, who their skills will be somewhat exposed. There are guys who haven't said a word about this yet, who are just going about their business and doing their jobs and are still pitching at a high level. And maybe they're not using anything at all. Maybe they're just using, bare minimum. Who knows? But I think that the MLB is obviously fumbling how they handle this from a purely protocol standpoint. But I think at the end of the day, I think they do need to put a halt to the concept of these altered balls, because it is kind of things have gone too far at this point. They do need to put some kind of they need to curtail it. But they need to curtail it in the right way at the right time. I don't think they're doing that right now. But again, we'll see how these things play out. I really, I don't know either way, or, I don't know one way or another whether or not, a couple years down the road, they'll enforce it the same way that they're claiming to want to enforce it now. So we'll see.
Every ball that gets thrown out has a consistent feel to it. And then when pitchers come in, there's a little swab. You swab their hands, similar to how they do it at TSA, and you send it off to the lab. And if there's anything besides the approved substances on your hand, then you can be retroactively suspended. And that's the only way to do it. But you can't take away the method for pitchers to get a grip on the ball when the balls you're sending out to the mound are super slick in the middle of a season. It's just not right.
First of all, Trevor, that is a tremendous idea. Hopefully Major League Baseball is listening and they take that into consideration in the near future.
I've told MLB this for 2 or 3 years now, directly to high-ranking officials in MLB, so they know.
Well, especially in the National League, you have pitchers hitting. So my question to you is, are you guys allowed to also use pine tar with the rosin? Because you guys are going to be swinging the bats. What happens when you grip the bat with pine tar? You have to take that to the mound.
Yeah, no clarification on that. They haven't thought through that. Or what happens when a hitter has a bunch of pine tar, like JT has pine tar on his gloves and obviously on his bat when you see it on his back. So JT hits a home run and I'm excited for him, and I come in and I give him a high five. He's got pine tar in his hand. Do I need to go now wash my hand and hope that I get rid of all of that? What happens if I'm wearing sunscreen on a hot day, a day game, and it happens to mix with the rosin on my hand? Am I supposed to call time and say, hey, can someone come clean my hand, please? Because I think it's too sticky. I need tape remover. I need something out here to clean my hand because I don't want to get.
I think he's reaching a little bit here. I think that. Yes, you can say that. That can be an argument. That can be something that you can say that could become a problem. But I mean, okay, let's be real. you know what substances you can use to clean that off of your hands, whatever it may be. If it's pine tar, I mean, I would assume alcohol. I would assume something like that would cut through that kind of material or that kind of chemical and allow you to be able to, have hands that are not potentially in violation. So, I mean, come on, you're cherry picking a little bit here. You're cherry picking. Picking, yes. But, I mean, we get it. But you're cherry picking.
Get suspended. Like, am I supposed to stop the game and ask someone to clean my hand? Like, they haven't thought through these things. There's no clarification on this.
Well, incredibly thoughtful stuff from Trevor Bauer. Trevor, thank you so much for taking time to be with us. And
all right, so I mean, at the end of the day, I really think that this is just a whole clusterfuck mess for the MLB, and it's a mess that they created. When you ignore these kind of things, when you don't actually have any wherewithal to actually be proactive in dealing with it, when you try to react to these situations once they hit the fan, and it's the middle of the season, it really makes you look like you don't know what you're doing as a league. And I mean, this wouldn't be the first time that the MLB has been caught in that position. They have been that kind of league a number of times in the past. I mean, whether it be steroids, Sammy Sosa and what's his name? Sammy Sosa, I forget the other guy's name, but they had that one year, I remember watching it, all go down, 70 home runs, 74 home runs, some shit like that. These guys were clearly on steroids. I mean, McGuire, that's right. Mark McGuire, yeah. Oh, man, those guys were, I mean, they look like two just titans over there, just knocking shit out into the river behind the stadium. It's like, yo, ain't nobody ever hit the ball that far, ever. You know what I mean? It's like Barry Bonds. Like, come on, man. You seen Barry Bonds when he was 27, 28? Dude looked like he was barely touching 175. Then all of a sudden, his head is 2 times as big as it was 2 years ago, and he's like 50 pounds heavier, and he's just one hand swinging, knocking shit out the park left and right. You knew he was on steroids. Balco. You knew the Balco situation was already out there. You knew he was on steroids. These cats were cheating their ass off to set records, and you knew it, and you didn't do nothing. So, I mean, this is, minor compared to what we've seen from in the past from the MLB. So, I think that, the MLB is just, it's a mess. It's a mess. But, again, it's worse when you create the problem for yourself. And I think at the end of the day, when you look back at this, is this whole doctoring baseball thing big enough to really change fundamentally how baseball, how pitchers operate in baseball and their ability to throw the ball? I think they'll adjust. You have to. You're a professional. You have to adjust. But I also think that, we'll see who the true pitchers are, who the true consistent pitchers are, because their numbers probably won't change that much. But a lot of guys who were, who had a distinct advantage and their game was significantly bolstered by additives that they used to gain grip and strength against the ball itself, I think you'll see that their numbers will begin to crater. You'll see that their consistency will fall off. And those guys will be out of the league, or at least out of their positions as starters, soon enough. And that is, that's just natural selection in sports. So we'll see how that all plays out. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. Really do appreciate you guys for being on the live stream with me today. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already done so. Make sure you are subscribed to the Observant Lineman Uche Nwaneri if you aren't already subscribed. And definitely, if you are subscribed, think about joining the O-Line by hitting that join button down below. I am your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. Appreciate you guys so much. And I will catch you all on the next live stream. Have a good evening.